Let's see if I get some people to join. See what y'all doing tonight. On tonight, I got this new stand, y'all. It's pretty nice. You see my whole kitchen. But, you know, as we all know, I'm a career mom. And I'm out here trying to be great and inspiring others to be their best version of them. Hey, Christy. So in addition to being a career mom and inspiring other people to be their best version of them, I'm also somebody's mama and wife, which means I got to be able to do all of that and cook, honey. And I got to cook something. Do y'all have a Instapot? It's like the best thing since sliced bread. It's amazing. Christy, thanks for joining. I just wanted to talk about performance evaluations because it's that time of year. So I just want to have a quick conversation about what that looks like for you while I'm in my kitchen. I'm turning this a little bit. I got a new stand. I like it. It allows me to be more flexible and move. Oh man, I need olive oil. All right, Christy. I'm going to get started because it looks like it's you and I don't want to be on here all day because, as I stated, I got to get dinner on. But it's performance evaluation time. So what I want to talk about is, what does that look like for you? Like, oh, yes, Christy, I love my Instapot. So with it being evaluation time, performance evaluation, it's normally that time of year when people are being evaluated based on kind of your what you've done throughout the year, and normally most people do that in January. And so I'm curious to know, how do you prepare for the evaluation conversation with your boss? Do you write your own evaluation and you bring it into the meeting? Is your boss the one writing and you're just bringing kind of subcontext to insert based on the conversation? Christy, what do you do at your job? Do they do it? Do you write your own evaluation, or does your boss do it and then you just have a conversation about it? Hey, Val. And sorry, Christy, I'm waiting on you to type. I wish this was like Instagram where I can invite you into the conversation so we could just talk about it. But it's not. Instagram is kind of better in that. So while you're typing, I'll talk about mine. So January is always performance evaluation. And in the performance evaluation, at my organization, at the level that I am at, like when I was an MSR taking phone calls, my leader, I think it depends on the level of trust with your boss. Okay, so when I was an MSR on the phones, my leader would write my evaluation, and then I would just come with context to add to the conversation. Now that I'm in more of a what we call a professional role, leadership role, I write my own performance evaluation based on what I was able to accomplish. And then my boss goes in and she kind of fills in with commentary. And so what I wanted to talk about is, have you ever had a performance evaluation go wrong? Like where you came to the table thinking, man, I killed it. That fourth quarter of that whole year, I was a beast. And then your boss came to you and was like, nah, just kidding. You were mediocre at best. Have y'all ever experienced that? Christy, have you? And Val, thanks for joining. I'm in the process of, cooking because I can't be an entrepreneur, a 9-to-5 employee in corporate America and not feed my family. They like, we don't care, we hungry. So what time is dinner? So Christy, have you had a situation where you had a boss, thought you did amazing? My own fully. Currently, I provide mostly bullet points. Yeah, no, bullet points are good. I also like to bring like quantifiable data. So things where I made an impact that increased the performance of the business, things that I did that increased revenue, things that I did that increased the experience, anything that I can quantify. So I'll give you an example. Part of my responsibility is being an influencer, or I should say USAA becoming an influencer in the San Antonio downtown area. And so with that, because my first year I spent growing our campus by a trillion thousand. I went from 250 people to 1,500 in about a year and a half. And so the first year I really didn't have an opportunity to focus on external relationships. But last year was my year to be able to focus on that. And in order to do that, you have to start building relationships first. If you can be considered an influencer in the San Antonio area, first people got to know who you are, build relationships, talk about a little about who you are and your purpose and what USA is as an organization. Not that people don't know, but a lot of people know us on 9800 Fredericksburg. They don't really know us downtown. And so that was my expectation last year. So for instance, an example of what I brought into my performance conversation with my boss is all of the relationships that I had made from beginning to end, and then what those relationships did to impact our employee experience. So the collaborations that we did with the San Antonio Riverwalk Association. Hey, Andrea. And how we were able, hey, Joey. Hey, Elizabeth, welcome. We're just talking about performance evaluations and what kind of things should you be prepared to come to the table to talk about. And I'm also asking if anyone has had their performance evaluation and you thought that you killed it, and then you got to your boss's desk and they was like, just kidding, you did not kill it, and here's why. So I just wanted to know if anybody's had any examples of that. But you always want to come to the table with quantifiable data. It's good to be like, hey, I was able to move this from point A to point B and be tactical. Hey, you can go in the laundry room. It's my kid. He came downstairs like, can I come down? But you got to come in there with some data, with some facts. You know, as they say on all of these shows, you got to bring the receipts. And so have any of y'all ever experienced a scenario where you thought you was awesome and then you got to the table? And by the way, I'm also cooking, because I could work a 9 to 5 and be an entrepreneur, but my family's still hungry, so I got to feed them too. Have y'all came to the table? Oh, you haven't had yours yet. Oh, you had yours today. So Elizabeth, how did it go? Was the results exactly what you thought it was? My boss is one of those people that she says that she feels like anytime you have a performance, a conversation, it should be you interviewing for the job and her still wanting to hire you for the job. So that conversation should be a two-way conversation. Experience with an area I work to give ideas on how to, sorry, I got to push the button to see more. Oh, yeah. That's funny. Yeah, you say you want to do something, which is the reason why it's always good to write things down. So another thing that I did last year, hey, Antonia, that I wasn't comfortable with is creating a strategy. Yes, but thankfully that was good. I'm glad that you got all the results that you wanted. So I remember at the beginning of the year, my boss was like, I want you to create a strategy of how you're going to move the needle downtown. And I was like, what you talking about, Willis? Like, I'm just going to make sure that people are happy and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, yeah, that's great. But then at the end of the year, or as you're making your decisions throughout the year, how do you inform those decisions if you don't know where you're going? And I was like, well, I mean, that's a great question, but I don't want to answer that. And so anyways, it's good to Val and others to create an actual strategy on paper at the beginning of the year, how you're going to break it out by quarters and what's the end goal, so that you could then have something to present and say, hey, I did this. All the things that I said I was going to do, done. And here's the quantified data to back it up. We were very much aligned. Good. So I'll tell y'all about a story where I wasn't aligned, and I'm interested in how others handle this. So I remember going to my boss. I thought I killed it. It was a great year. So just for context, I was a manager in a new area. I had just recently been promoted to a different area, new team, managing it was a team of people that was basically, they created me a team of people. And so in that team, of course, when it's a new team handling new things that they hadn't handled before, by the end of the year, my stats were not amazing, right? But I had all of these other things that I could come to the table and say how impactful the year was. And so I thought that I had been proven to my boss that even though our stats were not comparable to other teams, I had good reason why, and she knew what those good reasons why. So I came to the table like, killed it. Our stats were horrible, but they're better now. And so when I came to the table and brought it to her, she was like, oh, this is great, but no, you didn't do what I expected of you. And at that time we had ratings. So it was like meets expectations, partially meets expectations. And in my opinion, I thought I exceeded expectations with the challenge that I was handed. And so then she told me I sucked. And I was like, what? Wait a minute. So it's all about how you handle it, right? So I just said, let me digest that. Let me see what you have, which she brought me what she had and why she felt like I sucked. And on paper, she right, I sucked. But then I said, may we reschedule this so I can have an opportunity to go back, see what you've provided me, and then what I could come back with. And that's what I did. I came back to the table and said, so in this metric where you said that I sucked, here are all the new people that came. Here are all the new people I had to train. Here are the new people that didn't know this work. Here's how much training they had to do. So shows the months away that they were away from the team. And while they were away from the team, these are the 3 people that I had working on what you said I sucked on. And then I just went line by line and reproved what she said. I think if you're not aligned, that's on the leader. They should be keeping you informed throughout the year with coaching and mentoring. No, I agree. But then what if not, right? So what if you think that you're aligned, then you get there and they're totally not aligned? How do you handle that? Because a lot of people will just take whatever that person gave them. So she had originally rated me as a meets expectation, which would have been fine. But I knew that I had aspirational goals to go somewhere else. And normally when they would rack and stack, everyone knows the exceeds expectations or the far exceeds expectations were the ones that they would pick first. So Antonio, what do you do in that case where you feel like you aligned? Hey, Melinda, welcome. You feel like you aligned with the conversation, but yet when you get in the room, your boss is like, nah, just kidding. We're not aligned. So in a perfect world, you should be aligned. But I'm just giving suggestions because everybody's having these PE conversations on what if you're not? Don't always be so quick to want to counter back reason why you're better. Listen, understand where they're coming from, and then ask to go back. Let me have an opportunity to digest, and then take what they've given you and then go back and figure out why your opinion or why what you've actually done differs from what they gave you. Because if you try to answer it within that conversation, it can come off as being combative. Also, it can come off as being very defensive. So I think it's really important that you take a step back, which is what has helped me, right? And my advice isn't the Holy Grail, but in my career, what has helped me is I take a step back. I take what they say and I say, okay, I understand. Give me a moment to digest this, and then I would like to reschedule an opportunity to come back and talk to you. And so when I was able, and come back with some receipts. You can't come back and just be like, yeah, you was right, but I still think I'm awesome. Yeah, no, you're going to need to come back with some receipts. How do you quantify what they said and counteract what they said with some tangible data or some tangible tactical actions that you took that shows the reason why your numbers may not be the numbers that they think that you should have. I hope this is helpful. I got to finish cooking. I totally am not concentrating on cooking because I'm talking to y'all, and it's hard to talk and read at the same time. I'm glad you agree, Elizabeth. And as I was stating in the middle, always in the beginning, always come prepared. Like, my boss that I currently have, I'm repeating what she said, but whenever you're doing your PE conversation, it should be you re-interviewing for the job and you want to accept, and then they want to accept you. The difference, in my opinion, of the rating did not happen to me a few years ago, back when I understood. Yeah, so I'll tell you, I was there too, Christy. So when I first started my career, I had a boss that continued to rate me inadequately. So what I mean by that is the rating. So again, if the rating did not match the words. So the words were often exceeds, a go-to, great, blah, 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 but yet with all words like exceed and does the best of the team and things like that, I was still getting an ME. And I was like, why am I getting an ME if all of these words say otherwise? And so I just let it go. I never challenged it until, and I felt like it was preventing me from being able to move on. And so I finally took a cross-lateral job. And in that cross-lateral job, I got with the boss, who then looked at my performance evaluation and was like, this don't match. Why are you a meets expectations, but every other word is excels and exceeds expectations and does a great job and better than the my scores or whatever were exceeding the average. And he's like, well, why aren't you rated ME? And exceeds expectations. And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, well, why didn't you fight it? And I'm like, because I was a new kid on the block, and I thought I didn't have any rights to fight her. And he was like, no, you have rights, and you got all the proof in what she wrote. Your rating doesn't even match what she wrote. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize I should fight it. And ever since then, fast forward 3 years, is when I was sitting with that leader who had told me, no, your year wasn't as great as you thought it was. And so my delivery for her was, let me go back, let me go research, make sure I know what I'm talking about before I come back at you and be like, and another thing. And it worked. So Christy, I agree with you. We've all been there where we probably didn't make the best decisions in the beginning, and then we had to double back and do better. But I hope that this video encourages people that are currently going through it right now to come with your receipts, and also make sure that you compare yourself to your peers if that's the appropriate way to compare yourself, and then figure out how you exceeded what your peers were doing. So what did you do that was way out of the box or extra or different or better than your peers? So that, because they are comparing you, so make sure that they have the full story. Nobody can tell your story like you can tell your story. So make sure that that story is the right one that's being told, because your leader doesn't see or catch everything. Christy, I'm glad you love your current area. So do I. I love my current leader. My leader is all that in a bag of chips. I know that's old school, but I love my leader. But I have had leaders that I did not love, but I still needed to be able to move and promote. And in order to do that, I had to fight for the rating or the verbiage that was used in my performance evaluation that then follows you for quite some time. So it's important that you make sure that you're covering all of your bases and that you fight for yourself, because nobody else can tell your story like you. And if you don't fight for yourself, no one else will. I hope this helps somebody while y'all writing or talking about your performance evaluation. Quantify, quantify, quantify. Data is indisputable. No one can dispute the data. I can dispute tactical all day long, but if you don't have nothing in there that's quantified, and then figure out what quantified means for you. It doesn't look the same for everybody. So what does that look like for you? And don't assume that small quantification is like not good enough. So if your numbers don't look big, it doesn't work good. All right, it says low network connection. Thank y'all for listening. Hope this helps somebody. Have an amazing rest of the day. Deuces.